Hello and welcome to another review. This time we are taking a look at the Hearts of Iron 4, Paradox's newest grand strategy game situated in the Second World War. And it's the fourth installment in their series. The previous ones were notoriously difficult to get into. Even I, who am quite well versed into strategy games, grand strategy games, forex games and those, found them a quite difficult experience, and I didn't really play them that much myself because of that. And also I got to them a bit later in the process, so they were a bit dated at that moment already. But the newest one, the 4, is much easier to get into, and lots of the stuff have been streamlined, maybe a bit too simplified in some cases compared to the old one. Especially some hardcore fans of the series might find them a bit lacking compared to the old ones. But for new players, this is where you can get into the series. It's much more approachable for new players. And usually when I review these games or do a quick look on them, I explain all the mechanics and stuff. But this time I'm not gonna do that because I made a in-depth beginner's guide, and I'll link it below the video, so if you want to see the game mechanics more thoroughly, take a look at that. But anyways, let's go into the game, and I'll show and explain what's good and what's not so good, maybe, about the game. So the game has a single player and a multiplayer, and in the multiplayer it's supported up to 32 players, but you potentially can have more. Although you might run out of interesting countries if you go higher than that. So the human player is 32, plus probably some AI. And you can also co-op a nation, which is a really cool feature. So if you want to play some nation with your friend, you can do it. But anyways, let's get into the single player. There's a tutorial, which I highly recommend playing through. You play as Italy, and it shows some of the basic mechanics of the game, but it does leave a lot of things unexplained and not really tell you how to do them, which makes it a bit difficult, I have to say. But anyways, it's something you should definitely take a look if you haven't played, especially if you haven't played Hearts of Iron 4, Hearts of Iron games, or any of the Paradox other grand strategy games. The tutorial is highly recommended. But instead, we are gonna go for a new game. And as you start the game, you have two scenario options: January 36 or August 39. And the options pretty much affect well, how the world map is laid out, because at 39, Germany has already taken over some countries and stuff like that. But also, 36 is basically before the wars, so you have time to build up and research and make your factories and everything, plan your things. And 39 is if you want to just jump directly into the action as one of the nations. If you want to play like a minor nation, say Finland, where I'm from, 36 is very good because you can build up to actually be able to survive the war. At 39, it might be already too late to do really anything. But if you play one of the bigger nations and want to go immediately into action, 39 is a very good option. But let's go in the 36. And this is the major players, or the interesting nations as the game calls them. And they are the big nations that were in the Second World War. Plus you can also select the other countries here, which allows you to play as any country you see on the map. You can play Canada, for example. You can play Finland, where I'm from. They have their own informations. You can play British Raj, Tibet, anything you see here, which is really cool. But there's one small thing about them, that they have generic national focuses. So let me go back to the menu here. Well, actually, should go back to the interesting countries. There is this national focus thing and national spirit for all the major players, plus Poland currently at the launch. and they have their own national focus trees, which makes them quite unique and have these historical goals and stuff like that. All the other nations do not have those. They just have this generic list. They do have a national focus, but it's just generic for and it's same for each of the countries, which makes playing as a minor nation pretty much the same between all of them, except your location changes, which of course does affect your gameplay a lot. Are you bordering Soviet Union? Are you bordering the German Reich? And stuff like that. How big your country is does affect, naturally. But the tech progression and the national focus progression is basically same for each of the countries, which is a minor complaint for me, definitely, that playing as the minor nations might not be the most interesting thing compared to the interesting countries, which have their own historical national focuses. But anyways, let's go in as for example, France, and we'll select the country. And there's 3 different difficulties for the game. Recruit, which is a bit easier than normal, which is regular, and veteran for the hardcore people. And highly recommend Recruit for first-time players. And you have Iron Man mode, which disables the console, and also autosaves for you, so you can save load, try things. And also, you only get achievements when playing in the Iron Man mode. Then there's the historical AI focuses. So this is the national focuses, which I'll show you in a second. And if you use the historical AI focuses, they will do them in historical order, which makes the game run basically, well, tries to run it as the history went in real life. But if you take it off, which I usually do because I like the what if scenario, they just do them in basically whatever order they feel like they need at that moment. And that will break the course of history really bad. Like in my couple of my tries, Sweden took Soviet Union and stuff like that. China was in the coast of Yugoslavia, and small historical things like that. But if you want the historical playthrough, you can have it by enabling the historical AI focuses. If you want the crazy what if scenario, then you can take it off. So both sides are catered for. Let's jump into the game. And if you have played Paradox Grand Strategy games, you are pretty familiar already with the UI and everything. But I won't go through too much through this in here, because I have that beginner's guide that shows and explains everything. So take a look at that. But there's a couple things that are new to the series, which I hope would be added to like Crusader Kings and EU4 as well. And this is one of the best mechanics about the game that I really loved, is the army and the army plans. So for example here, let's just grab say the front line here, like those units, and we'll make them into an army here. So we have a group of 30 now, which is bit too big, and we'll assign a leader in there. Alphonse, you look like a nice guy. Actually, he can do it just fine. So the battle plans is then a really nice improvement compared to many of the other Paradox's strategy games. Is that you can do front lines, you can do offensive lines, garrisons, fallback lines, all kinds of things with this, and it's a really amazing tool. For example, here I took the frontline tool, and since we are bordering a nation here, I can click on the border here. You can see the turn this green line, and just click on that, and now we have a front line here, and it's per nation, so we are now bordering the German. But just for a demonstration, I think that angry Dutch and Luxembourg and Switzerland need to be taken care of as well, and here, Italy. And now that I've made a front line here, if I unpause the game, let me speed up it, we can see that the troops automatically run to the borders and take care of that area. And it's a really nice tool for that kind of stuff. So you don't need to micromanage one unit here, one unit there, and move them here and do all of that thing that usually you have to do in Paradox Grand Strategy games. Nope. This one has them run into the border. Although it seems I actually send all of them in the German border. But you can assign them, like, grab these guys, control click there, and suddenly these guys cover this border now. Plus now, when there was hole there, the other troops immediately move to cover the space I made. So you can manually control them, but also they will automatically do their thing. So it's really awesome how this works. And that's just the frontline thingy. You also have like the offensive line here. So when you are planning to go to war, you can plan like, let's say we want to take this area here from Germany. So I can just plan a front line here. It goes by province, so these are small areas in there, and I can just plan a front line here, like that. And it marks the front line over here, and then the attacking direction from the front line I made, so into the offensive line. And this mechanic does pretty much the same thing as it did with the border here. So it sends troops to automatically capture this area, and it pushes them quite intelligently, so that it constantly tries to keep the front line alive, but still offensively pushing where it sees potential holes, and it will just take over this whole area for you without your you having to poke it in anyways. And it's a really awesome and helpful tool to do things. And you can do multiples of these front lines for them, and then when you have multiple army divisions working together, you can do all kinds of crazy plans with this. And same with the fallback line. It's basically when shit hits the fan, you can plan a fallback line where your army will fall back. Usually behind like a river here would be a good idea, so you make this nice defensive line. Or if you have forts or mountains, you can run in there and make a fallback in there. And it's really cool. So if this offensive doesn't go too well, we'll go this way, strengthening the battle lines. And then we have a garrison option as well. And same thing also for naval invasions. So we could do a naval invasion from here. So there's this navy port here. So we just click on that, and then we decide that we want to go to take over London. So we'll plan a naval invasion. And same way as the other battle plans, this naval invasion does the same. And then there's the same for paratroopers as well. But we don't have any paratroopers in the squad, so we cannot do it at the moment. And this allows for a lot of planning, and also removes a lot of the micromanagement of, let me send one unit here, one unit there, let me chase this one army with my unit there. And if you've played EU4 or Crusaders Kings, you know what I'm talking about. And especially when you play a big nation, say Soviet Union, and you have multiple theaters, you have the Soviet-German war there, very likely. You may have some wars down here, you may have you will have a war with Japan over there. This planning and doing things helps you so much, doing these big wars against big other nations, without the need for a micromanagement. So I think this is one of the best additions to the game series, or any of the Paradox Grand Strategy games. Really good feature. And I was talking about the national focuses. So here's the national focus tree. So it's kind of like a research tree, but it does give you different things. And there's historical goals in here for big nations like France, and the generic ones are like focus on navy, focus on army, focus on industry, and stuff like that. And you also get like stuff like extra research slots. So this is the national focus tree, where you use your political power to do focus for your nation. And then there's a separate research as well, which I will show in a second. And here's historical goals and also alternative historical goals. So for example, the government reform here allows you to go with Britain or do your little entente, so you don't go into a faction, you create your own French faction instead. Or you can go revise Versailles, and you can go with the Germany, or you can even go with the Soviets. So these national focuses allow you to do all kinds of things like that, and then they go deeper for all kinds of things. France first, and then different all these different focus for air and things. And all of the big nations have their different ones. For example, let me show you. Let's show. So the German one. Let me just switch to Germany here. So German national focus here. They have a totally different looking tree from this French, and they have their historical focuses like Rhineland and then demand Sudetenland. But you can go the other way as well. Just befriend the Czechoslovakia, or ally with the USSR, the Ribbentrop, and puppet turkeys, and all kinds of things. This is a really cool addition to the game as well. And let me show you also the default one. So let's go like Finland here. So now we are at Finland, and Finland has the Finland focus tree, but it's the generic one. So all the small nations have the same one, where they have also the same kind of splits for going with Nazis, or going with the Soviets, or staying neutral, or going democratic. That's basically your 4 options in this. And as I said, there was the industrial effort with construction effort and armament effort. A lot of the, say, unique national focus trees have lots of these same ones as well, but just colored with history. So it's not that different. And it's very, very likely that Paradox will eventually add more and more of these into the game for different nations as they go. I'm sure it requires quite a lot of historical research and thinking to make a really nice, proper national focus tree for a nation. And I'm sure just with the big nations, it was a tremendous effort. And they seem to be really well made, with historical quotes and stuff like that. It's really awesome. Let's switch back to the French. And let's go to the research. So here's the research. You start with different amounts of research slots. Some nations have like 4 to start. Some have even like 2 only, and it affects how many things you can research at the same time. Research speed is pretty much the same for everyone, except the national focuses. For example, let me find one. For example, Navy focus here gives you naval bases, but then there is like a capital ship focus, which gives you 50% research bonus on battleship models and battle cruiser models. So you can speed up the research by having a focus on like infantry or navy or any of these. But other than that, researching is pretty much the same speed, and just affected by your slots. And in the research tree here, you can have different selections, like the equipment for your infantry, then support battalions for your infantry, tanks, artillery, your warfare doctrine, how your troops will do their battles, and there's like different versions of this mobile warfare for the Germans, basically. Then you have a superior firepower for artillery focus, grand battle plan. This is like where you have little troops of quality that entrench against the big invaders, and then there's the Soviet mass assault. And depending on your playstyle and your nation, you can do different focuses on this. Then you have Navy and Navy doctrine, the same as the inland land doctrine, planes, and the air doctrine. You can play with. Big nations have their historical planes. The generic nations have, or the smaller nations have their generic, just bombers or whatever, because they didn't have those in the real history, so there's no real names or anything, or real models. Then you have engineering and industry focus. So this allows you to focus on your production and your research. For example, researching electromechanical engineering and computers and stuff like that. And then the atom bomb and rockets as well. So this is how the research goes in the game, and it's a really cool feature. And I've been playing a few runs of this game now, and I really like the game. It's awesome as hell. Like all Paradox strategy games, they are very well made. Couple of issues I ran into. Well, actually, pretty much only one issue is the worry that the AI may have some small problems, some issues with them, and sometimes they just don't know what they want to do, and sometimes, especially with the historical focus of, I think the historical focus is, if you keep them on, it gives them kind of this layout, where to go and what to do and when, and if you take that off, they just go all kinds of crazy and don't know where to focus things on a national level. And then the other problem with the AI I encountered was the problem with how they do their battles. They do these battle plans, which are actually really cool. You can, if you're allied with the other nations, you can see their battle plans as well, and you see all kinds of crazy plans they do, and it's really awesome, which actually allows you to strategize with them, because you can incorporate your battle plans with their battle plans to support them, and it's really great. But the problem the AI runs with doing multiple battles is like doing multiple fronts, more than once or twice or thrice. The German Reich has decided that it's a good idea to take Poland and attack France and Soviets at the same time, and then declare a war basically on everyone around them. And that leads to a problem that it focuses on one of the front lines a lot. And usually for me, on those tries, it has been the Soviet front, which leaves its Western front totally unprotected, which means the Allies will just push into Berlin really quickly, and then the whole German Reich falls. And it seems to do this kind of flip-flop between the front lines, so it runs from the Western to Eastern front. And same happens for the Soviet Union as well, when Japan declares war on it in the east, and they just move their troops from the Western front where they fight the Germans to the Eastern front where they fight the Japanese, and doing that back and forth. And they don't really care about losing like major victory point areas. Even like Moscow, they're just like, nah, well, you take Moscow, we will take the Japan. It's like, okay, that's not very good idea after all. And same for the Germany as well. And well, it's a problem with all nations if they have to do multiple wars and multiple fronts at the same time. Germany usually just abandons its western side, where all the resources and all the factories are basically located, and then it loses its production capability, and that's just the start of the fall for them. So if you look at the resource map, for example here, this is where all of this nice steel is being made, and then it has only little left when it is pushed all the way like here. And that's my biggest concern in the game. The AI seems to have some interesting way of dealing with the wars. And if you're playing as a human player and you want to make sure your friend doesn't die, you usually need to help one of the fronts. I did one playthrough as a fascist Iran. I was in the Axis down here. I took over a whole of this area, the Middle East, and I was doing a war with the Soviet Union here, while I was allied with the Germans, who we are doing war on this front and on this front. And for some reason, they were sending a lot of troops to help me in here to fight the Soviets from this flank, while they were losing their own battles over here. So it seems they have some kind of prioritizing issues where they need to do things to help their own war efforts. So that's the biggest issue currently in the game for me, with the AI having troubles, and also with the national focus only being limited to the big players. Another really cool feature about the game is the world tension, which is up here. And history is currently empty because it hasn't started, but to go to war against the nations, you need to do a justification for war and declare a war, which for Soviets, or let's say communists and fascists, is 0%, so they can declare wars whenever they feel like. For non-alliance, it's 50% world tension, and for democratics, it's 100%. So you need basically a world war to be able to declare wars. And I really like that mechanic, that it's the fascists and the communists always starting the problems, and then everyone else jumps in later on. And there's events, justifications, and wars increase the world tension. There's the historical national focuses that increase the world tension, and it slowly builds up towards the 100%, which is the world war, when all hell breaks loose. And it's really nice pacing mechanic for the game to make it a bit more historical as well, because you start with small issues here and there, couple people fighting each other, then it builds up this tension, and bigger issues happen, and when it gets close to the 100%, it just all hell breaks loose and everyone is free game and everyone starts fighting each other and it goes to the world war. It's a really well done game mechanic to represent the real historical world tension and how the world progressed. It's really well done. I really like that one. But anyways, if you want to see more detailed focus on all of these options you can do in the game, there is the in-depth beginner's guide. I'll link it below the video, and go check that one out. And if you like Paradox's Crunch Strategy games, you'll love this game. Even though it might be a bit easier than some of the old ones, but it's still a very well made game. And also, if you are new to the series or new to the Crunch Strategy games from Paradox, this is a very good point to jump in. It's streamlined so that a lot of the mechanics are much easier to understand and deal with, and it's not as overwhelming as some of the old ones. So it's very good time also to start enjoying the Crunch Strategy games and move on from there. So anyways, thank you for watching this review of Hearts of Iron 4, and there's some other reviews on the YouTube channel, Let's Plays, review other content like modding for this game and Stellaris and many other games, and also check out the live stream on Nari.tv, where I live stream a lot of strategy management builder games every day. So anyways, thank you for watching, I'll see you guys next time.